check it before you spend it. Travels fast, so make sure you check it before you spend it. Here are 4 easy ways to know your money is real. Look, feel, tilt, and check. Look closely at your note by holding it to the light to see the watermark and the note value. Notice how the see-through image completes itself perfectly. Feel for authenticity. Run your fingers over the raised portrait and the bars on the edges. 1 bar for the $2 and up to 6 bars for the $100. Tilt the note to see the hidden value appear. Look for the moving images on the security thread and holographic shimmer on higher denominations. Check closely. Use UV light or a magnifying glass to find hidden images and microtext. Remember, handling counterfeit money is illegal. If you spot a fake, report it to the police immediately. Look, feel, tilt, and check. Know your money. Check it before you spend it. A message from the Central Bank of Belize.
A charge of sexual assault against former police officer Jermaine Dawson has been thrown out after a magistrate in San Ignacio determined that the prosecution had not presented sufficient evidence for the matter to continue. The ruling was handed down today in the San Ignacio Magistrates Court alongside where Dawson appeared alongside complainant Luna Gillette. Following the court's decision, the sexual assault allegation was dismissed, leaving Dawson to face only a charge of harm. Dawson appeared before the court without legal representation. The case originated from an incident on February 14, 2024 at the San Ignacio police station. Gillette, who was serving as a police officer at the time, alleged that Dawson sexually assaulted her while they were at the station. The incident was recorded by the station's surveillance cameras, and the footage later circulated widely on social media and other platforms. Following the incident, the Belize Police Department launched an internal disciplinary investigation. Then Commissioner of Police Chester Williams stated that the matter was brought before a police tribunal where Dawson was found guilty of misconduct. Based on the seriousness of the allegations, the adjudicator recommended his dismissal from the department, a recommendation Williams said he approved. In addition to the disciplinary proceedings, Dawson was criminally charged with sexual assault and harm. Although the court has now dismissed the sexual assault charge after finding there was no case for him to answer, the harm charge remains before the court. The Elections and Boundaries Commission, EBC, has taken the position that it is not obligated under Belize's Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, to release documents related to the country's electoral redistricting exercise, arguing that its constitutional status shields it from the authority of the legislation. The position was outlined in a response to public interest litigant Jeremy Enriquez, who submitted an extensive Freedom of Information request seeking access to records connected to the long-awaited redistricting process. According to the Commission, its constitutional independence is central to its position. It cited Section 88(14) of the Belize Constitution, which states that the EBC, in carrying out its responsibilities, is not subject to the direction or control of any person or authority except where specifically provided by the Constitution or electoral laws. The Commission further contended that the Freedom of Information Act is intended to apply to government ministries and entities classified as prescribed authorities. It argued that as an independent constitutional body, it does not fall within that definition, raising doubts about whether the legislation applies to the Commission at all. In its response, the EBC also characterized Enriquez's request as unusually broad, stating that the quantity of records sought goes beyond the level of disclosure envisioned under the FOIA. The Commission additionally pointed to ongoing legal proceedings concerning Belize's electoral boundaries, noting that both the Attorney General and the Elections and Boundaries Commission are parties to the litigation. It said releasing the requested documents while the matter is before the courts could have implications for those proceedings. Although the Commission did not issue an outright denial, it said it was replying as a matter of courtesy and would withhold the requested information until the courts determine whether it is legally required to disclose the records under the Freedom of Information Act. Yesterday, when the media spoke to Enriquez, he reacted to the EBC's response.
The FOIA was basically seeking information as to the process for redistricting. Right now, everything seems to be done in secrecy. And so the public has a right to know how that process is going on. What are the proposals for redistricting or balancing the electoral divisions? The public has a right to know also if they are on target to complete this by the end of 2026, as the Prime Minister promised. The point is that we've been burnt before when between 2020 and 2025, after the Prime Minister repeatedly promised that redistricting will be done, all of a sudden it was not done. The proposal submitted by the Elections and Boundaries Commission was not accepted. It was carelessly done, in my view, because it did not meet the targets for international standards. And over 2 decades, there has not been redistricting as it ought to have been done. So we need to know, the public needs to know what is going on. I find that the response by the Elections and Boundaries Commission to be arrogant, and they're still maintaining secrecy. They ought to still provide some information, if not all, to inform the citizens of Belize where we're at and how we could, and just to keep us informed. This culture of secrecy and arrogance is unacceptable for any democracy.
Mr. Enriquez filed the 11-page request on June 8th, seeking comprehensive access to documents covering virtually every stage of the redistricting exercise. Among the records requested were progress updates, implementation schedules, demographic and geographic information system studies, statistical analysis, draft electoral maps, technical reports, consultant agreements, procurement documents, meeting minutes, correspondence involving the Prime Minister, Cabinet, and Attorney General, as well as the methodologies used to redraw constituency boundaries. He also sought reports identifying delays or challenges affecting completion of the exercise. The request further called for information on every consultant, constitutional expert, statistician, demographer, geographer, and electoral specialist retained by the Commission since January 1st, 2025, including details of their qualifications, contracts, fees, and payments. In support of his application, Enriquez argued that electoral redistricting is a matter of significant public interest because it affects every Belizean's constitutional right to fair and effective representation. He also noted that the Prime Minister has publicly pledged to complete the redistricting exercise by the end of 2026, arguing that the public has a right to know how much progress has been made. the methods being employed, and how public funds are being used, and whether the process is being carried out in accordance with constitutional standards. The transition toward electric mobility in Belize continues to gain momentum as the University of Belize, UB, in partnership with the University of the West Indies, UWI, Mona Campus, is hosting a 3-day electrical vehicles and batteries workshop aimed at building local knowledge and technical capacity in the growing field of sustainable transportation. The workshops bring together educators, technicians, students, government representatives, and other stakeholders to explore the fundamentals of electric vehicles, EVs, battery technologies, and the opportunities they present for Belize's transportation and energy sectors. The initiative comes just days after the Orange Walk IT Vet officially inaugurated Belize's first electric vehicle laboratory, another milestone that underscores the country's commitment to cleaner, more sustainable modes of transportation and the development of a skilled workforce to support the emerging industry. According to one of the workshop's trainers, the sessions are designed to provide participants with a strong foundation in electric vehicle technology, beginning with the basics before advancing to broader discussions on implementations and the role of key stakeholders.
We'll be looking at the context, right? Trying to ensure that persons are on the same page and understand why it is that electric vehicles are even being considered in the first place. Electric vehicles and battery technologies, because battery technologies are important in the performance of electric vehicles. And so there are different aspects of batteries that are traditionally not considered to be very good for the environment, good in terms of performance. But based on how the technology has evolved over the years, there have been significant improvements. And there are also improvements in the way that batteries can be managed and batteries can be disposed of at the end of life. So the aim here is to ensure that we cover all aspects of the life cycle of electric vehicles, from the development of the raw materials going to the very end, and the use and the disposal of the materials, and try to ensure that this information is communicated to all stakeholders in a way that is easily understandable, hopefully, because all stakeholders need to be a part of the discussion, and that's what would lead to increase in electric vehicle adoption in Belize and the wider Caribbean.
A representative from the University of Belize said the workshop aligns with the university's mission of promoting national development through research, innovation, and workforce training.
An important part of the mission of the University of Belize is national development. So we need to understand, for example, the policies that have been established by, different government entities. And one such policy is energy policy. And within that, 2 pillars, research and training, very important in order for Belize to advance its energy policy. And so the university, of course, research and training, a key part of what we do. So we've established an entity called the Energy Research and Training Center, ERTC. So it's through that unit that we're providing this particular training that you're seeing here today. And just as another pitch, this Friday we also be having a wireman's training. So we're trying our best to ensure that the University of Belize plays its part when it comes to energy transformation, renewable energy, and trying to provide the research and the training necessary where that is concerned. So this EV training is a key part of that future trust in order for us to ensure that we're part of that innovative transformation that we're seeing taking place in Belize.
And does the university see the need to push for maybe a transition from these fossil fuels to a more sustainable method like electric?
Certainly the university does see that as significant. As you heard from Dr. Harris earlier, as I was in the training earlier as well, and he spoke about the context, climate change, the issues there. and the need for us to play our part. So while Belize is not a major polluter, it can play its part in terms of being more sustainable when it comes to fossil fuels and things of that sort, right? The emissions. And as we are transitioning, we need to ensure that we play our part, and we think that not only from the environmental sustainability aspect of it, but also from the economic aspect of it, right? Clearly, we're seeing the increased fuel prices, and so electric vehicles are a fraction of the operating cost, I think 20-25% less than what it would for a fuel combustion vehicle.
As interest in electric mobility continues to grow, initiatives such as the workshop and the newly established EV laboratory are expected to play a key role in equipping Belizeans with the knowledge and technical skills needed to support the country's evolving transportation sector. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and New Growth Industries has announced a decrease of 40 cents in the controlled prices for liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, which are set to take effect on Wednesday, July 15th, 2026, following adjustments in acquisition costs. According to the Supplies Control Unit, SCU, the updated pricing structure reflects the sale of LPG by volume at the wholesale level and by volume and weight at the retail level, applying to both urban and rural areas across the country. At the import wholesale level, the control price has been set at $4.33 per gallon for all districts including Belize, Cayo, Orange Walk, Corozal, Stand Creek, and Toledo. For retail sales in urban areas, LPG will be sold at $1.36 per pound, equivalent to $5.93 per gallon. In major towns and cities such as Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio, Bencabel del Carmen, Orange Walk Town, Corozal Town, Dangriga, and Punta Gorda. In rural areas nationwide, the controlled retail price has been set at $1.38 per pound, or $6.03 per gallon, reflecting distribution and logistical costs. The ministry explained that the adjustment represents a decrease on the current shipment, driven primarily by lower acquisition prices on the international market. Officials also reminded the public that the controlled prices apply only to LPG imported under the 70-30 propane to butane mixture, in accordance with the Belize National Standard specification for LPG. There is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
At the beginning, it was a bit challenging because it sounded so good and so promising that I think people were reluctant in embracing the idea. But after 2 years in this NHI program, the perception of people and the usage of people for the services that we offer is very much appreciated. And the people are using all the services that we have. And our population has grown a lot. We actually have registered, and which, by the way, I have to mention this, we never expected to grow this fast. We are at 12,000 and plus registered patients with us right now. And the numbers are growing on a daily basis, I would say. For the general physicians and the specialists that include the gynecologists, the pediatrician and the internist. And now we have a nutritionist, it's $2, which is very accessible to people. And when it comes to the laboratory or the images, it's just a 10% cost that they pay for the whole service that is offered. If we have a healthy community, then I would say that the whole country itself is going to benefit from it, because a healthy community is going to be successful economically as a whole. That is my vision of the NHI. It serves its purpose.
The Ministry of Human Development, Family Support and Gender Affairs has taken another step towards strengthening Belize's juvenile justice and rehabilitation system by hosting a validation workshop aimed at refining a new set of standard operating procedures, SOPs, for the Community Rehabilitation Department, the CRD. Held today, the workshop brought together CRD personnel, ministry representatives, technical specialists, and development partners to review the draft procedures and ensure they reflect international best practices while addressing the day-to-day realities of supporting children, young people, families, and communities throughout Belize. The SOPs are designed to provide a standardized framework for the department's work in prevention, rehabilitation, court services, aftercare, and program management. Once finalized, the guidelines will help ensure consistent service delivery across the country while improving outcomes for children and youth who come into contact with the justice system. The validation exercise was supported by the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, through the PACE Justice Program, which is funded by the European Union. The initiative forms part of ongoing efforts to strengthen a more responsive, inclusive, and people-centered justice system in Belize. In her keynote address, Amelin Mendez, Inclusive Growth, Digitization, and Governance Team Lead at UNDP, stressed that the workshop represented more than a completion of a policy document. She also underscored the role of diversion programs in strengthening the justice system, noting that they provide appropriate alternatives for children and young people, support informed judicial decision-making, and connect individuals with structured rehabilitation services that encourage positive long-term outcomes. The workshop represents another milestone in the ministry's ongoing efforts to build a coordinated child-sensitive justice system focused on prevention, rehabilitation, and creating opportunities for positive change. Upon completion, the new standard operating procedures will serve as a practical guide for CRD staff across Belize, helping to enhance service quality, consistency, and support for children, youth, and families. Belize has taken another step toward deeper regional financial cooperation as government officials met with senior representatives of the Central American Monetary Council, CMCA, to discuss the country's possible participation in the regional monetary body and its payment system. The discussion took place during a series of bilateral meetings held alongside the 58th Ordinary Meeting of the Council of Ministers of Finance of Central America, Panama, and the Dominican Republic, COSEFIN. The Belize delegation was headed by Dr. Honorable Osmar Martinez, Minister of State in the Ministry of Economic Transformation. He was accompanied by the ministry's Chief Executive Officer, Carlos Paul, along with Central Bank of Belize Deputy Governors Marina Leitita Murillo and Hollis Parham. They met with CMCA Executive Secretary Odalis Marte, Chief Economist Jorge Madrigal Badia, Senior Economist Wilfredo Diaz, and COSEFIN Executive Secretary Dr. Federico Rivera Romero. During the meeting, Minister Martinez outlined the government of Belize's interest in having the Central Bank of Belize join the Central American Monetary Council initially as an observer. The proposal is part of the government's broader strategy to strengthen financial ties with neighboring countries, improve regional payment systems, and expand economic connectivity between Belize and the rest of Central America. CMCA Executive Secretary Odalis Marte welcomed Belize's interest, noting that discussions on the Central Bank of Belize's participation are already underway among member states. He added that several countries, including Costa Rica, have voiced their support for Belize's inclusion in the Council's regional payment network. Officials also agreed on a roadmap for the country's possible participation in the regional payment system. The CMCA has already sent a formal communication to the governor of the Central Bank of Belize. Once the bank submits an official expression of interest, the Council will carry out the required legal and technical assessments before presenting the request to member countries for consideration at a future meeting. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Wednesday, July 15th, here on Ctv3 News and Festa FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at www.ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews, or you can visit our YouTube channel at ctv3 newsbz. From all of us here at CTV3, thank you for watching and listening, and have a splendid night.